Hello, everyone. Welcome to the March 11th episode of the Bacon Bets podcast. It has been a while, my friends. Last time I spoke to you was right before the Super Bowl. I told you the next time I'd have an episode would be for the Players' Championship, and look at that. Time flies. Players' Championship is here. But a little bit of an extra treat as well. March Madness is also here. So I'm also going to give out some futures and thoughts for conference tournament week. So I'll start with my Players' Championship thoughts. I'll get into the conference tournament week. In the next week, after Selection Sunday, I'll do what I always do for March Madness week. For NCAA tournament week, I'll have one episode where I just go through my personal bracket. And then the next episode, I will give you all my picks for the opening round of the NCAA tournament, because that's what I do. I bet on every single NFL game. And then when March Madness comes, I bet on every single March Madness game. Which I forget how many games that is. I guess it's 64 plus 32, which is 96, 16, 102, 112, 125 games. Some quick mental math, probably off a little bit, but somewhere around there. But since I haven't talked to you since the Super Bowl, I guess a little bit of a recap about the Super Bowl. It was a fun week. It was a surreal week as a guy who, in my sports media career, my sports media life, I kind of grew up and, built a name for myself on the internet. I hadn't done a lot of in-person things, even players that I had interviewed, and I'd interviewed a ton over the past number of years, athletes in a couple different sports. They're all over Zoom, so to kind of be thrown into the fire in Super Bowl week and being able to see these athletes face-to-face was new to me. I'd never done an in-person interview before, and then all of a sudden I'd done 80 plus in person, or I interviewed, I think, 80 plus people throughout the course of the week, starting with opening night on Monday night and then Radio Row. And what Fansided does for Radio Row, and I'm assuming most of you guys who have listened or listening to this have never been there. It is just a massive conference center, and every media outlet that has been given a Radio Row pass has their own little table, and then along the outskirts are some bigger setups for more of like the big networks. Most, if not all, of those networks and websites and radio stations do a handful of shows throughout the day, a couple interviews here or there. Our strategy with Fansided, because I was with Fansided throughout the week and then Sports Illustrated on the weekend. Our strategy with Stacking the Box and Fansided was just quantity. Just any interview that we can fit into our schedule, we were going to do. So it was pretty much nonstop from start to finish. Every single day of Radio Row, I had, we had a few different people there, so we did it in shifts, but also I did taped interviews with some NFL players, which was fun as well. But at the end of the day, I went back and counted at the end of the week. I think I did a little over 80 interviews, starting with opening night all the way up until, I guess you can include the post-game interview after the Super Bowl. I got a question in to Nick Sirianni. So, I mean, if you count that, I think it was over 80 interviews. It was an exhausting week. It was a fun week. It was a surreal week. It is kind of crazy to see these football players in person, though, to be honest. It's crazy when I watch football games. It is like I see players do things, and then I realize they're like 22 years old, and it doesn't really compute in my head. Then when you see these guys in person, you kind of realize that a lot of them, at least the young NFL players, are kind of 22 years old, which was kind of a weird feeling. They don't feel like they're 22 when you watch them on Sunday every single day, or every single week. But I got to talk to some Falcons, talk to Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier. That was fun. I actually did do 2 interviews, which actually didn't even air. I did an interview with Kirk Cousins. That was remote, and we lost the recording to it. And then I was supposed to interview Michael Penix remote at the end of the week, and I just completely lost all internet and wasn't able to interview him. So completely lost those to space and time. At least the Kirk Cousins actually did talk to him. He did say, because I asked him if he remembered my Falcons pitch to him a year before, and he said, yes, I do remember, and it made zero impact on my decision to sign with the Falcons. So Kirk Cousins on my favorite athlete power rankings, fallen off a cliff. No longer a Kirk Cousins guy. I can say that for certain. Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson were great. You want to know some of the best athletes I interviewed that week? Eric Dickerson was a fantastic interview. He was my dad's favorite player when my dad was a kid, so that was very cool. He gave very thoughtful answers. We could have talked to him forever, it felt like. A lot of great stories, some story about Deacon Jones. Reggie Bush was really cool to talk to. Then there were some guys who I don't want to say they were mean necessarily. Interviewing and being on, the receiving end of an interview is a skill. And some guys weren't the best at it. And if you guys don't know how this works, what this is these are all athletes and current players, former players. Basically, they get sponsored by any kind of brand possible, and they make their rounds at Radio Row. You can ask them questions. You usually get a 10 to 15 minute slot with the athlete, and as long as you slip in a question that allows them to promote whatever product they're partnered with, then you can ask them whatever you want for the rest of the time. Now, usually this is a win-win for everyone. You, as a media outlet, gets an interview with a player or former player. The sponsor gets their product blasted out to all the different media outlets, and the athlete gets paid by the sponsor. Now, sometimes the athlete has a role where, yes, they're going to be paid by a sponsor, but also that athlete should be kind of a decent interview. There were athletes who just wanted to pitch their product and then leave and had no interest in answering very many other questions. Todd Gurley is the one that sticks out as the most. He had no interest answering any questions. He actually responded to a couple of questions with being like, I don't care about that. So then I just said, all right, tell me about it. Is he sponsored by Beans or something? And he was like, yeah, no, this is a question I care about. It's like, okay, dude, you got to play your role. David Montgomery, very short answers, very short with me. Did not particularly enjoy interviewing David Montgomery, which was a bit of a shame. Austin Eckler was great. Austin Eckler was a taped interview, and I did a bunch of those taped interviews with Bounty. You might have seen me post about them on my Twitter. He was the only one who came up to me, because obviously there's a few minutes when we're there setting up and they're kind of just standing there waiting for the next person to interview them. He was the only one who came up to me pre-interview to just have a conversation. So thumbs up for Austin Eckler, great guy. Thumbs down for David Montgomery. Big thumbs down for Todd Gurley. If you're talking about current players, Warren Sapp was drunk, so that was fun. Allegedly. Let me actually take that back, because I don't know for sure he was drunk. Warren Sapp reeked like alcohol at 11 in the morning, is how I'll word that. And our table after he left smelled like alcohol for the next hour and a half. So maybe he wasn't drunk, maybe he was drunk the night before and he was just hungover and just didn't shower and just smelled like alcohol. But I mean, it does kind of add up with Warren Sapp's history. Unfortunately, a lot of people thought that Warren Sapp was supposed to be turning things around and, make a little bit of a refreshed image, but that interview was weird. And he just reeked like alcohol. That was strange. Those were kind of the big ones that stuck out to me the most. I'm trying to think of any other ones. Oh, the Griffin twins were great. Shaquille and Shaquem Griffin. That was a great interview that I did. That was taped. You can find a lot of those taped interviews. I pitched the Falcons to both Myles Garrett and Trey Hendrickson. Myles Garrett has since re-signed with the Browns, so he's dead to me. But if Trey Hendrickson gets traded to the Falcons, maybe I will have played a role in that. Ian, the unofficial recruiter of the Atlanta Falcons, may strike again. A lot of those interviews have all been clipped out on Stack in the Box if you want to go back and check those out. But I know the Super Bowl was a long time ago, but I hadn't recorded the podcast since then, so I just wanted to give some of my thoughts. It's too bad the game wasn't a little bit better. It was a blowout, and my bets did not do good. I mean, my strategy, if I'm going to place 59 bets on a Super Bowl, and I explained this when I broke the bets down, is basically I come up with how I think the game script is going to go, and then base a lot of my bets off that game script. Well, my bets did not follow the game script of an Eagles blowout. So I have done my record here. So I have 59 bets for Super Bowl 59. I went 21-38 for minus 16.43 units. Now, that is if you placed one single unit on every single play. I did not do that. I don't know what my actual record is, but I definitely lost money. I've lost money basically every single Super Bowl. I go into the Super Bowl assuming I'm going to lose money. I actually think I haven't, if we're just talking about sides for a Super Bowl, I don't think I've picked the right winner in a Super Bowl. Well, let's think about it. the 2 times I bet on the Chiefs were the 2 times they lost this season in the Buccaneers. I bet against the Chiefs. I bet on the 49ers both times. I bet on the Eagles the other time. I bet on the Rams. I think they were minus 3.5 against the Bengals, and they won, but I believe the Bengals covered that game, right? I think Bengals lost by 3, so I think they lost but covered, so I didn't get the right side in that one. Let me actually look this up. Let me look up some list of Super Bowl champions. See if I can figure out the last time I picked the right side. If we're talking spread, this time no. Last year no. Rams no. Chiefs no. I was on the Rams against the Patriots. We got to go back to 2018. I remember I did bet the Eagles against the Patriots back in 2018. So that was the last time I picked them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 0-7 on Super Bowl sides. The last 7 Super Bowls. Something to keep in mind for next year. All right. I think that's it. I mean, I got a lot to get through. Players Championship and Conference Championship weekend. I'm excited to get into it. One of my favorite stretches between kind of here and the Masters is actually, and then right into the NHL playoffs. This is the best stretch of sports outside of the NFL season, is basically from conference tournament week until the Stanley Cup final. Really until the Masters, but if you want to stretch it out through the NHL playoffs until then as well. All right, if you just want to skip through to Conference Championship weekend, or if you only care about the Players Championship, I'll timestamp when I start talking about each thing, so you can just check that out. Let's dive into it. It is the Players Championship and March Madness Conference Championship week episode of the Bacon Bets podcast. Let's go.
I'm not a state. I'm a monster.
No, Lisa. The only monster here is the gambling monster that has enslaved your mother. I call him Gamblor, and it's time to snatch your mother from his neon claws.
All right, let's talk Players Championship. If you haven't seen it already, I was asked to go on Pat Mayo's show last week. We recorded Thursday morning, and came out Friday. That was a treat. Go check that out. I've listened to the Pat Mayo Experience for a long time. If you're a golf bettor, I'm sure you probably listened to that show. He's a fellow Nova Scotian like myself. He messaged me Wednesday asking me to come on the next day, or maybe it was Tuesday. Obviously, it jumped at the chance. It was fun. It's fun to be on a show that you've watched and listened to for a number of years. So that was fun. If you did watch that already, I'm going to try not to repeat myself from a lot of the things I said on that show. But I do encourage you to go check it out and go leave a comment, a nice comment about me in that video. I hope Pat Mayo has me on some future episodes. That would be a real treat. But let's talk Players Championship. This might be now I'm going to sewer myself, so maybe I shouldn't say this. That's too late. I've already started saying it, so I have to finish my sentence. This is, I think, the tournament I've had the most success at from a betting standpoint of all tournaments, because to me it's very straightforward, and I think a lot of people overthink this tournament. Number one, recent form. Recent form is more important, and maybe this is why I do well at this tournament, because I seem to value recent form quite a bit. Recent form is way more important at this event, at least historically, than any other event. It is very rare, if ever, especially in recent history, for a golfer who has not been playing well to start the season to start playing well at TPC Sawgrass. So, with that in mind, just to list off some names you can cross off, Hideki Matsuyama hasn't played well, even though he won to start the year. Sungjae Im hasn't been playing well. Siwoo Kim hasn't been playing well. Victor Hovland, not a chance. 70-1 Victor Hovland, can't do it. Tom Kim, not a chance. There are some big name guys. Matt Fitzpatrick, I've been seeing some people give out Matt Fitzpatrick as a long shot. Don't you dare. Stick to guys who have been playing well recently. In terms of stats for the Players' Championship, recently the most important stat, in my opinion, has been driving accuracy, because 2 years ago, before the 2023 edition of the event, the PGA Tour increased the length of the rough to 3.5 inches. That has made a profound impact on the tournament, and now driving accuracy plays an even bigger role. It already did at TPC Sawgrass, because it is one of the most penalizing courses to miss the fairway at. But now with the rough long, that then exaggerates that even further. And it's not even about hitting the fairway. It's actually even about hitting the right part of the fairway. So driving accuracy, in my opinion, the past couple of years has been the most predictive stat. So look at driving accuracy, look at recent form, and just look at overall strokes gained tee to green. It is a very straightforward tournament for the most part. If you want approach distances, I try to stay away from that for the Players' Championship because wind is going to play a big factor in that. Obviously, if it's more of a windy day, guys are going to have longer approaches. If there's no wind, you're going to have a little bit shorter approaches, and there is some wind at times at this event. So I keep things simple. Driving accuracy, strokes gained tee to green, recent form, past performance at TPC Sawgrass. And if you do that, you'll find the winner. I know in the past couple of years, by the way, I meant to talk about this at the start of this portion of the episode. Green on the Greens is not going to be back this year in its previous form on the Bet-Sided YouTube channel, since Bet-Sided is no more. I had explored the option of it being on the Sports Illustrated YouTube channel. That is not going to happen. So I don't know if I'm just going to do myself just talking about golf tournaments each week on the Bacon Bets podcast, or I might see if Cody Williams wants to hop on and basically just do Green on the Greens, the same format as the previous iterations of it, but on the Bacon Bets podcast. Got to reach out to Cody and see if he wants to do that. Let me know. Send me a DM or comment on this video on YouTube below in what form you want to see the golf betting podcast this year. If it's the same format as Green on the Greens, if you want Cody back, if you want it to be individual, if you want a rotating cast of guests. At least for this week and next week, because of actually next week, I don't know if next week might just be March Madness because it's so big, but at least for this week, because this is tied in with the conference championship week, I'm just going to do my normal format of me ranting into a camera and a microphone for an hour. All right, moving on. So we got accuracy off the tee, strokes gained tee to green, scrambling a little bit, but I'm not going to overthink that. Recent form and past history at TPC Sawgrass. My number one pick this week, now the odds have, actually my top two picks to win, the odds have completely fallen off a cliff, so I have bet them at completely different odds that are no longer available. If you still want to bet them, you can, but just be aware that you will not find the same odds that I was able to get them at. I like Collin Morikawa as my top pick. He was 20-1 last week. I didn't play him. That was stupid. Then after, of course, a strong weekend at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, he's all the way down to 14-1, 12-1 at some places. I managed to get him before he moved all the way down to there at 18-1. I then used a profit boost, so I technically have him at 27-1. But I was able to get him at 18-1 on Monday morning. There's 14-1s widely available. I don't hate that price. I would have, I certainly don't like it as much. But the reason why I like Collin Morikawa of the top guys, he is by far the most accurate driver of all the top guys on the odds list. He checks every single box. Driving accuracy, 5th on the PGA Tour. Actually, 4th on the PGA Tour in driving accuracy, 72.37%. Obviously, a great ball striker. Leads the tour in strokes gained tee to green. He's number 1 on the PGA Tour in that. So recent form, check. Already 2 runner-up finishes this season. A couple of solid results at TPC Sawgrass throughout his career. Let me see if I can just bring that up really quick. Morikawa, he had a 13th, okay, really only one great start, 13th place finish here in 2023. That's still enough. It's more to me about his recent form, his driving accuracy, leading the PGA Tour and strokes gained tee to green is enough for me to like Collin Morikawa this week. And then my next outright pick, I got him at 90-1 Monday morning. If I check odds checker now, at least at the New York regulated books, I think his best price is now 70-1 maybe. Let me see. Oh, there is an 80-1. He is 80-1 at FanDuel. So you can still get this guy. It is the double glove bandit himself. It is Aaron Rai. If you listen to Green on the Greens last year, you know this guy is my guy. I bet on him all the time last year. He finally cashed for me at the Wyndham Championship. I will continue to bet on him this year because he is an accurate driver. He's an accurate with his irons. He 30th in greens and regulation, 6th in driving accuracy. Coming off a T4 finish at the Mexico Open, T11 finish at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, so we got recent form, we got driving accuracy, we got a great ball striker. His two biggest weaknesses are driving accuracy and his chipping. Driving accuracy is not going to hurt him. Driving distance and chipping. Driving distance is not going to hurt him at TPC Sawgrass. Short winners have won here quite often in the past. And chipping actually gained strokes around the green last week at the API. So if he has figured something out with his around the green play, he is going to be in contention at the very least this week. If you don't want to bet him to win, you can bet him top 5, top 10, top 20, whatever you want to do. But I bet on him to win at 90-1. Some other golfers I'm interested this week a little bit further down the board, and then maybe I'll just talk quickly about some of the other top guys. I also bet Doug Gim to finish in the top 20. That includes ties. I always bet including ties for my placement bets because I hate when you bet on a guy who finishes T20 and you barely get anything out of him. Let me check out plus 280 DraftKings. I'm going to double down on him at BetMGM because BetMGM has him top 20 finish at plus 350. So even better odds. I will be betting that again. 5th on the PGA Tour this season in strokes gained approach. If you look at Doug Gim's ball striking numbers, out of this world this season. His putting has been completely atrocious though. But if Doug Gim can putt even average at a tournament this season, if he continues how well he's been playing with his irons, he is going to win. Some solid finishes already this season. T21 at American Express, T11 at the Cognizant Classic 2 weeks ago. And don't forget, he has a pretty solid history at TPC Sawgrass. He finished, he was in the final group 2 years ago in 2022. I guess 3 years ago now. Crazy that 2022 is 3 years ago. Finished T6 there after being in the final group. Kind of choked it away on Sunday, but still finished T6. And then he posted T16 finish last year. So we got great form, great history, great ball striker. Is he an accurate driver? Let me look up Doug Gim's driving accuracy. I think he's fairly accurate. Oh, Dougie Gim, the Gim Reaper. Driving accuracy, 39th in driving accuracy. Another guy, much like Aaron Rai, who's not long off the tee, but that does not hurt him at TPC Sawgrass. And then my other one I got here is Alex Smalley, top 20. Ties included. That was plus 360 at DraftKings. Let me see what he is here at BetMGM. Plus 450. God, I got to double down on these top 20 bets. BetMGM plus 450 for an Alex Smalley top 20. Might be the most underrated golfer so far in 2025. He has finished T21 or better in 5 of his 6 starts. He's also extremely accurate off the tee. He failed to kind of capitalize on that win at the Mexico Open, but we're talking about an extremely accurate driver, a guy who's been in fantastic form this season, a guy who nobody's talking about. I think if you're looking for a long shot bet, even if you want to take a crazy long shot bet on him to win, you can do that. I'm not going to do that. The way I'm going to play Alex Smalley is top 20 at plus 360. Now, another player who I did play, I don't have this play in any articles. I have not brought up this play anywhere else. This will be a little podcast special. But I had 3 profit boost tokens on FanDuel. I used one on Morikawa, one on Aaron Rai, and so I had another one I wanted to use on a golf outright. I went with Corey Connors. So let me just bring up the odds I got him at. Corey Connors, obviously a great form. You know, had a chance to win last week at the API. Let me down in the final round again. But he has had a pretty solid history at TPC Sawgrass. So I got him at 65-1, boosted up to 98-1. That's how I use my other 50% profit boost token. Let's take a look at Corey Connors' history here. Corey Connors, 3rd place last week. Yeah, he has a 7th place here in 2021, 13th place in 2024, 26th place in 2022. So he has a pretty good history at TPC Sawgrass. He's obviously a ball striker. How is his... Now, he hasn't had a great season up until this past week, but, I mean, a 3rd place finish at a signature event is enough for me to assume that he's in good form, and he has been pretty accurate off the tee as well. His bad performances this season has been his short game, but now 2 straight events. Genesis T24, he had a solid short game, and then solo 3rd last week. Great short game. So Corey Connors, and I mean, even if I look at his best odds right now, obviously no profit boost. There's a 60-1 out there at FanDuel. It's so, I mean, Corey Connors is, He's won 2 events. They were both the same event. He has not won a big dog event, and he's been in the mix a lot. It's tough to trust in him to win, but I bet him. I did make a DraftKings lineup I really like this week. I cashed in big on a DraftKings lineup with the players either last year or the year before. Here's my DraftKings lineup. You ready for this? It's all the players I mentioned. Alex Smalley, Aaron Rye, Colin Morikawa, Corey Connors. I also tossed in Sepp Straka. He's kind of like a not as good version of Colin Morikawa, but like more clutch, less skilled, more clutch version of Morikawa. So I like Sepp Straka in there. And I also put in Tommy Fleetwood, who I will not be betting on Tommy Fleetwood to win, but if you're talking about a DFS lineup, I believe he's leading the tour in strokes gained approach this season. Let's bring up Tommy Fleetwood. T22 Pebble, T5 at Genesis, T11 last week. If you go worldwide events, he hasn't finished worse than T22 since the Open Championship. Ooh, he's never been in contention, at least on the PGA Tour this season, but he's posting strong finishes. That's what we want from a DFS guy, and I believe he has a pretty solid history at TPC Sawgrass as well. 5th place, 2019, 7th, 2018, 2022, he's finished 22nd. It's kind of trending in the wrong direction. But still, great form, great ball striker. Let me just verify where he ranks in some of these stats this season on the PGA Tour. 10th in strokes gained total, 4th in strokes gained approach, 65th in driving accuracy. That's fine. That's okay. I'm not betting on him. I tossed him in the DFS lineup, though. I kind of just convinced myself to bet on him, though. What's the best price on Tommy Fleetwood? I forget who said it. I forget who said it. I think it was Brian Kirshner's friend, who I forget his name. I even met him once. I forget his name. He said you're allowed to bet a Tommy Fleetwood outright once a year. Everyone's allowed their one Tommy bet each year. 30-1 this week at FanDuel. I can't. That's no, not quite. Although it is tempting. Maybe a live bet Tommy Fleetwood, Tommy Fleetwood. He isn't my DFS lineup, though. He's kind of like a perfect DFS player. But if you bet on him to win outright, he's going to drive you insane. Let's go through some of the top guys here, just in case for those of you who want my thoughts on some of the other top golfers this week. Scottie Scheffler. Their narrative around Scottie Scheffler, he's going to win no matter what. A lot of people on like panels and stuff are going to pick him to win. Call me crazy. Scottie Scheffler right now so far this season, or at least what we've seen this season, is not the Scottie Scheffler of last year. He has a T25 and a T11 finish this year. Last year, you would never see him finish outside the top 10. He's finished outside the top 10 twice already. His putting numbers were atrocious last week. But my concern is his approach numbers aren't even close to where they were last season. That's what made Scottie Scheffler, was he was gaining an unbelievable amount of strokes every single time he teed it up. This year, it's not that. He struck the shit out of the ball at AT&T Pebble Beach, but since then, 3 straight events, approach numbers aren't there. Not to say he can't win this week, but the numbers around Scottie Scheffler's odds make it seem like he's as dominant as he was last year, and he's not. So I may even fade Scottie in some head-to-head matchup bets, maybe. I have no interest, absolutely no interest in betting on him 4-1. Rory, I could see it. I'm never right about Rory. I try to bet on him. I bet on him last week. His driving accuracy this season, I think, is going to be a bit of an issue at TPC Sawgrass. So I'm owed on Rory. Told you I like Colin. Ludwig is interesting, but his driving accuracy has not been great this season either. And a lot of these guys who win, although he was pretty accurate last week, But a lot of these top guys now are they're bomb and gouge guys, and you can't bomb and gouge TPC Sawgrass. I don't think it's a great course fit for Ludwig. JT, too wayward with his driver. Don't trust JT this week. Xander would be interesting. He had a very good Sunday round, so maybe he finally found something, but also Xander's coming off a rib injury. I mean, I don't think he's played enough this season to be ready for TPC Sawgrass, so I'm out on Xander. I gave my thoughts about Tommy. Hideki has not played well enough this season. Russell Henley going back-to-back? Sure. Shane Lowry? Nope. Shane Lowry's going to be in the mix, but does he have enough to win a big dog event this season? Has he shown enough? Does he have the ball striking to do it? Let's take a look at some Shane Lowry profile here. Has he been at, I believe, well, back-to-back weeks where he's been below accurate with his driver. Not good. His approach number is very good, though. I can't quite get there in Shane Lowry. Patrick Cantlay, can't do it. Sepp Straka, I told you I like Sepp. I like Sepp. He's accurate, good with his long irons. Keegan Bradley could be interesting, especially after that Sunday round this past week. I know Russell Henley won as a mid-range guy this past week, but basically for the past 2 years now on the PGA Tour, it's either take a guy in the top 5 on the odds or take a guy who's like 100-1 odds or longer. And that's kind of my strategy. So that's why I'm not going to bet on Keegan. I'm not going to bet on Sungjae, who's been atrocious with his approach play lately. If you're going to go mid-range guy, I'd probably go Sepp. Wyndham, it's just not consistent enough. Jason Day, not consistent enough. He was hitting everything with his putter this past week. That's not sustainable. Berger, decent, not going to win. Siwoo Kim, not going to win. Bobby Mack, not going to win. Jordan Spieth, if I see another person bet on Jordan Spieth, my brain's going to explode. Jordan Spieth he's not Jordan Spieth anymore. Stop betting on him. Great price on Jordan Spieth this week, 70-1, and he's not going to do it. He's one of the most inconsistent golfers on tour. His approach numbers are all over the place. He loses strokes putting almost every single week. Stop betting on Jordan Spieth. I think I need 150 odds at these events to bet on Jordan Spieth. Victor Hovland's atrocious. Do not bet on Victor. So some people fall into the trap where they see a guy they recognize, a guy who has been great for spurts in his career, and then they see a big number next to him. And they go, it's worth a shot. It's not. Matt Fitzpatrick, not worth a shot. His numbers have been atrocious. Victor Hovland, not worth a shot. He can't chip. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on the Players' Championship for this week. I will tweet out some 3-ball bets for every day round of the event as well. So keep an eye out for those. But all right, let's take a quick break. If you're listening to this, you'll hear an ad, and then I will bounce back here with my my conference tournament picks. Be right back. All right, let's talk some conference tournament action. I'm not going to talk about every tournament. Most tournaments have actually, not most. A decent chunk have already started. Also, most mid-majors. I didn't want to dig into too many of them. So these are the tournaments I'm going to talk about. I'm going to go through them in alphabetical order. ACC, Atlantic 10, Big 12, Big East, Big West. Zot. Big 10, Mountain West, SEC. So it's all the major conferences, and then we're going to add in the Mountain West. We're going to add in the A10, and then, of course, the Big West. Starting with the ACC, we're going to get this one out of the way because this one is the most obvious and the most boring. It's Duke. I don't really know how you can justify a bet on anyone else in this tournament. Duke's going to be a tough team to evaluate when the NCAA tournament gets here because their numbers are so good, but the ACC has been the worst it's ever been. There's Clemson, there's Louisville, there's kind of UNC, and then the rest of the teams absolutely stink. Actually, let me backtrack a little bit. These are the things I'm going to look for, or at least I have looked at when trying to pick out a conference tournament winner. These are the stats. Effective field goal percentage, defensive efficiency, extra scoring chances per game, and then effective possession ratio, opponent effective possession ratio. Also, I consider the path of their bracket, what side of the bracket they're on, who their likely competition is going to be, and then a little bit of recent form, but not too much. So effective field goal percentage, defense efficiency, extra scoring chances per game, effective possession ratio, bracket path, recent form. Here's where Duke ranks in those stats. 3rd in effective field goal percentage, 2nd in defensive efficiency, 24th in extra scoring chances per game, plus 4.7, 16th in effective possession ratio. From a metric standpoint, they're the most complete and the best team in the country. Now, we know that's going to be enough to win the ACC. Is that going to be enough to win the NCAA tournament? That's up for debate. And that's for next week's episode. There's really only 2 teams that I think have any chance to upset them. That's Louisville and Clemson. Both of those teams are on the opposite side of the bracket. You can choose one, but then when those 2 teams play against each other, you're running a risk of not even having a team in the final. I might bet, or at least what I might do is take whatever team Duke faces in the final, take the points with them. But there's not enough there for me to justify a bet on either of them. I don't like giving out a minus 320 pick, but I truly think no other team is worth a bet in the ACC to win this conference tournament. Now, don't worry, I got long shots coming up. I'm not going to take the favorite in every single one. Actually, I think I'm only taking the favorite in 2 tournaments. 3 tournaments. But Duke is truly as good as advertised, and I will not be picking against them in the ACC tournament. So, I had to talk about it because it is a major, obviously, conference. Duke is the pick. Duke or nothing before the tournament starts. Some of these tournaments start tomorrow or Tuesday when this podcast will be released. But any of those games are going to involve teams that don't have a chance anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Moving on, we're going to talk about the Atlantic 10, which is kind of my favorite mid-major conference. A lot of people like the Mountain West. I'm an A10 guy. Love the A10. Fordham is the closest school to where I live currently. I have a Fordham jersey, but they stink this year, so I will not be wearing that on this episode. I will not be picking them. But I do. This is actually my longest shot that I have. No, it's not. It's my second longest shot that I'm giving out on this show, on this portion of the show. You have VCU, who are the odds-on favorite. Let me just bring up the odds here on a sports book. I believe VCU is an odds-on favorite. If not, it's pretty close. Conference tournament winner, the A10. Oh, yeah, the A10 only, for some reason, is being offered at FanDuel of the sports books that I have. NCAA basketball. The A10. And, of course, now I can't find it. They probably took off all their conference championship odds because games are ongoing. Regardless, VCU is a favorite. Then there's George Mason. There's Dayton. I'm actually going to go with St. Joseph's to win the A10 at 8-1. I like this St. Joseph's team. I think there is value on them at 8-1 to win this tournament. 79th in effective field goal percentage, 40th in defensive efficiency. They're not good at the kind of stats that lead to extra scoring chances. They're not a great rebounding team. They don't force a ton of turnovers. But they are a great shooting team and a great shooting defense. Actually, defensive efficiency takes into account forcing turnover. So if you actually look at like opponent effective field goal percentage, I think they're in the top 20. So if you actually look at shooting defense specifically, opponent effective field goal percentage, St. Joe's is 24th, just outside the top 20. So great shooting team, great shooting defense. I believe his first name is Xavier. It is the most wild way to spell Xavier of all time. It is Xzayvier. I guess instead of looking up how to spell Xavier, they just kind of try to sound it out. Xavier Brown, though, for St. Joe's, is a guy that can take over a game. He's a guy that can drag a team to a win. And St. Joe's has some impressive wins this season. They beat Villanova this season. They beat Texas Tech this season. And yes, they had 7 conference losses, but 6 of those 7 conference losses came by just single digits. So I think St. Joe's is worth a bet at 8-1. They're not the best team, but at 8-1, I think there's some value there. I think Dayton's a solid team. They're kind of similar to St. Joe's, but Dayton at plus 440, not a move I want to make. Great. George Mason is a great defensive team, but they're an average shooting team. If you want to look for like an all-around good shooting team, good shooting defense, decent track record, some value, I like St. Joe's to win the A10 at 8-1. Let me just bring up the graphic here. I've not done a good job with my graphics. This is why I need a producer. Maybe someday. St. Joe's. Boo, boo, boo. 8-1 to win the Atlantic 10. I think is a good shout. Big 12. This is a time where I'm going to take the betting favorite. Houston, if I were to bet on a team to win the national championship right now, and I'm not going to at this point, you may as well wait for the bracket to come out. If I was going to pick a national championship right now, it would be Houston. They have the best defense in the league. I don't even think it's close in the country. First in defensive efficiency in the country. First in extra scoring chances, plus 8.3 extra scoring chances per game. Sixth in effective possession ratio, 10th in opponent effective possession ratio. The only thing they're not fantastic at is shooting. They're 96th in effective field goal percentage, but that's still better shooting than they've had the previous iterations of Houston. I love a team. That can create extra scoring chances, especially in close games that we'll see in the conference tournament. I think Houston is, if I were to say the best teams in the country right now, if you were to just tell me to rank the top 4, I think it's Duke, Houston, Auburn, and Florida. That leaves out the Big Ten. That leaves out the Big East. Yeah. Houston, Duke, Auburn, Florida. If I had to make the number 1 seeds, those would be my number 1 seeds. And I think Houston right now, where are they to win the whole thing here? I can at least look that up on FanDuel, right? Oh, and here's Atlantic 10. VCU is an odds-on favorite, minus 110. National champion Houston is third. It is Duke, it is Auburn, and then a big drop-off, and then Houston and Florida plus 750. If those odds stay the same and Houston and Florida are on opposite sides of the bracket, I'll bet on both. And then just hope Duke and Auburn lose at some point, and hope Houston and Florida meet in the final. Yeah, I like that. It's gonna be a 1 seed that's gonna win the championship this year. Not to kind of get off track here, but no other team I think is built to win this tournament, because one of those top 4 teams are gonna win. It's gonna be Duke, Auburn, Houston. Okay, so I listed the 4 teams. Those are the top 4 teams on the odds list too, and I didn't look at the odds list before this. Okay. So I got Houston plus 110 to win the Big 12. I think they are by far the best Big 12 team. I think if you want to take another team, you could look at Texas Tech, but Texas Tech is basically just like kind of a worse version of Houston. They play very similar style of play, stronger on defense than offensively. I'm not going to bet on them, but if you do want a long shot in the Big 12, I would take a look at BYU at 13-1. They're a very good shooting team, 5th in the country in effective field goal percentage. If you want to look for a long shot in any of these conference tournaments, I would just see if there's a long shot that is the best shooting team, because a team that's very good at shooting can beat anybody. So BYU, 5th in the country in effective field goal percentage. They have a bye. Even though they're like 5th or 6th on the odds list, they have a bye. They do have probably going to be a tough first matchup against likely Iowa State. I'm not going to bet BYU at 13-1, but you can if you want to go with a longer shot to win the Big 12. I'm going to go Houston at plus 110. By the way, shop around for these futures odds for conference championships. They vary wildly. Like, I know Houston is actually, I think, minus 115 somewhere, plus 110 at FanDuel. There's another team I'm going to talk about later that is 25-1 at some places. I bet them at 40-1. Like, there are some significant differences if you shop around for conference futures. All right, let's move on to the Big East. I can't bet this in New York. I have to go offshore to bet it. But I will use regulated books for odds, so you can bet it too. Big East, I like Marquette at 6-1. The Big East is a bit of a clusterfuck this year, as it normally is, but usually you have a dominant UConn team. We do not have that dominant of a UConn team. St. John's is the favorite, but I'm out on St. John's. St. John's is an elite defensive team, but they are 252nd in effective field goal percentage. I cannot trust a team that is that poor shooting. Yes, they create extra scoring chances. Yes, they play shutdown defense. But at the end of the day, ranking 252nd, almost in the bottom 100 in the country in shooting, at some point, that's going to catch up to you. So instead of betting St. John's at like plus 150 or whatever they are, take Marquette, who is not quite as good defensively, but still very good defensively, but are much better from a shooting team. Marquette, 118th in EFG, effective field goal percentage, so not great, but significantly better than St. John's. But they're 29th in defensive efficiency, 5th in the country in extra scoring chances per game, and plus 6.6. So they create extra scoring chances. They're a better shooting team than St. John's. They're almost as good defensively, and they're at 6-1 odds instead of plus 150. Creighton would be interesting because Creighton is a very good shooting team, but they rank 361st, fourth last in the country in extra scoring chances per game. They don't grab offensive rebounds. They don't force turnovers. And it's hard to win back-to-back-to-back games against very good teams if you don't create extra scoring chances for yourself. I wouldn't mind UConn. Their odds are a little bit shorter than what I'd want to play them at. I think the best value is at Marquette 6-1. That's available at BetMGM for you non-New Yorkers. I think I'm going to go to Big East tournament the first night, Wednesday night. I'm busy Thursday and Friday. I think I'm going to go Wednesday night and watch some shitty teams play. I think the night game is Seton Hall against Villanova. That's an interesting one. So I might be there at MSG on Thursday night or Wednesday night. All right, moving on here. We got the Big West. Now, I have been cheering for UC Irvine, as some of you may know, since they upset Kansas State. What year was that? I want to say 2019. Yeah, I think it was 2019. UC Irvine basketball season results. And ever since they pulled off that first upset of Kansas State, because I won a lot of money in that game, I've declared myself a UC Irvine fan. As you see, I have a jersey. And every single year since then, they have been a top team in the Big West, and then they lose in the conference tournament. Yes, it was 2019. I was right. Let me make sure it was Kansas State. I'll feel really stupid if it's not Kansas State, because I always say it's Kansas State based on memory, but I've never actually gone back. You got to fact check your memory sometimes. It was number 13 UC Irvine beat number 4 Kansas State 70-64. Since then, they have finished first in the regular season 3 times. Once the tournament was canceled, the other 2 times they lost in the semifinals. They also finished second in the tournament. They lost in the Big West final. They have not returned to the NCAA tournament since. They are once again the number 2 seed with UC San Diego. And I'll tell you right now, the Big West, one of those teams are going to win it. It's either going to be UC San Diego or my UC Irvine Anteaters. Now, before I tell you who my bet is on, let me just quickly give you a zot. UC Irvine, my beloved Anteaters, let's go. I'm going to live and die with every shot through the Big West. Come on, Anteaters, let's go. Zot. With that being said, unfortunately, UC San Diego is the side to back. They are minus 160 right now to win the Big West. UC San Diego is just UC Irvine, except they can shoot better. Both teams extremely good defensively. But if you look at effective field goal percentage, UC San Diego is 32nd. UC Irvine's 140th. And UC San Diego also forces a ton of turnovers, which I love. They're second in turnovers per possession in the country. UC Irvine's 132nd. And if you look at the odds, it's like UC San Diego minus 160, UC Irvine like plus 160 or plus 170, and then the next closest team is like CS Northridge at 13-1. Maybe CS Northridge at 13-1 if you want to take a flyer, but it's gonna be UC San Diego or UC Irvine. Yeah. And I will be cheering for Irvine, but if I'm being unbiased, I actually think there is a little bit of value on UC San Diego at minus 160. All right, let's move on to the Big Ten conference tournament. This is an absolute logjam. A lot of good teams, no great teams. It is Michigan State that is the betting favorite. I'm staying away from Michigan State. They actually are the St. John's of the Big Ten to me. Pretty solid defensively. Only 155th in effective field goal percentage. I don't want to say Michigan State's bad, but if you're talking about the favorite to win a conference tournament, especially a conference tournament that's a logjam like the Big Ten is, I need to see more out of a team if I want to take the favorite. Instead, I'm going to go Maryland, plus 430. 58th in EFG, 8th in defensive efficiency, 26th in extra scoring chances, 65th in effective possession ratio. So they shoot well, they play great defense, they create a ton of extra scoring chances, but also they're on the right side of the bracket. Every tough team I think that I'd be afraid to face Maryland is on the other side. The other teams I'd be afraid to face Maryland are who I think are the next best 3 teams in the Big Ten: Wisconsin, UCLA, and Michigan State. All 3 of those teams are on the other side of the bracket. On Maryland's side, you have Michigan, who has regressed a ton. They have stumbled into the conference tournament. And then you have like Purdue and Illinois, who I'm not really too concerned about. UCLA could be a very interesting option because at home they're fantastic this season. They're a very good defensive team. They just did not travel well. They just sucked on the road. So I wonder if with the Big Ten conference tournament being all in one place, I wonder if that'll even the playing field a little bit. I wonder if UCLA will play well. So the Bruins are interesting. If you don't want to go Maryland, I think Bruins are at 8-1. But I think from top to bottom, the best team in the Big Ten is Maryland. So I'll take them at plus 430. And I'm going to, depending on how the bracket shakes out, I'm going to look to see how to bet them in the NCAA tournament too. Love Maryland. Big Maryland guy. All right, let's move on to the Mountain West. I will say it again next week. But I'm going to say it right now as well. When we get to the bracket, don't take fucking Mountain West teams to go far. Every single year. Watch out for the Mountain West. Oh, Mountain West, the best mid-major. And I know 2 years ago, San Diego State went all the way to the final. I get it. Last year, the Mountain West team sucked. Even the year San Diego State went to the final, every other one lost in the first round. Every single year, it's the same story. Watch out for the Mountain West. They're sneaky. Those are where the dark horses come from. And every single year outside of San Diego State, the 1 year, they disappoint in the first round. With that being said, it is fun basketball to watch in the conference tournament. There are 4 options, maybe 5 if you want to add in UNLV, who you can take to win the Mountain West, and I would not argue against you. The team I've opted for is Utah State at plus 425. They are the best shooting team in the conference. They're 11th in effective field goal percentage. They also rank 2nd in the conference, 30th in the country in extra scoring chances. So we got a great shooting team and a team that creates extra scoring chances for themselves. That's enough for me. They grab offensive rebounds. They force turnovers. They aren't the best shooting defense, but like I said, extra scoring chances, and they are the best team in the conference at shooting themselves. My concerns with the other top 4 teams, New Mexico's shooting concerns me. They're great everywhere else, but their shooting numbers aren't great. Colorado State, great everywhere, but they don't create extra scoring chances. They don't force turnovers, don't grab offensive boards. And San Diego State's a worse version of New Mexico. They can't shoot. And then Boise State is good at everything, but not elite at anything. So of all the options, I like Utah State. I like the team that's going to shoot really well and a team that's going to give themselves extra looks. Give me the Aggies plus 425. And that leaves me with the best for last, the best conference in the country this year, although I will say, it feels like almost every single year there is a conference that everyone says is the best, and then they kind of don't live up to that name in the NCAA tournament. So I don't know if I'm going to pick them in my brackets to lose, but I may fade the SEC in terms of covering spreads in the first round of the NCAA tournament. But in terms of the conference tournament, you got Florida, you got Auburn, you got Tennessee, and you have Alabama are the top 4 teams. I think the real answer in terms of who's going to win the SEC is either Auburn or Florida. I would give a slight lean to Florida. If you want to go one of those 2 teams, I actually like Florida a little bit better. But I'm going to give you a long shot here. I'm going to give Missouri, the Missouri Tigers, to win the SEC tournament at 40-1. Now, I mentioned earlier how you got to shop around. They're as short as 25-1 at DraftKings. They're 40-1 at FanDuel. That's a pretty significant difference. Do not like them at 25-1. At 40-1 at FanDuel, I will take a shot at the Missouri Tigers. Now, you don't need me to tell you about how good Florida and Auburn are, because every single college basketball guy in the world is saying that. If you've paid attention to college basketball at all, you know that Florida and Auburn are elite teams, 2 of the 4 best teams in the country, for sure. But where I got some issues, and the other teams of the SEC who rank above Missouri, who have better odds than Missouri, Alabama and Kentucky can't play defense. Their defensive numbers are not good. And then Tennessee and Texas A&M can't shoot. So if you look at the list, you got Auburn, Florida. You got 4 teams who are really good on one side of the court, bad at the other side of the court. The next complete team after Florida and Auburn is Missouri. Now, Missouri doesn't do a lot of things as well as Florida and Auburn, but they are complete. They rank 12th in effective field goal percentage, so they're actually a very good shooting team. And they create a ton of extra scoring chances, 45th in extra scoring chances per game, plus 3.6. Their shooting defense is not good. They're around middle of the pack in the country in shooting defense, but They've already beat Florida once this season. They beat Alabama this season, and they are a complete team. They have plenty of depth, so you don't got to worry about foul trouble because they don't rely on one single player or one or two stars like a lot of the other teams do. They have depth. They have experience. They have already beat Florida and Alabama. They can shoot the hell out of the ball. At 40-1 to win the SEC, I will take a chance on the Missouri Tigers. So there you go. Those are my conference championship winner picks. I got Duke minus 320 to win the ACC, St. Joe's 8-1 to win the A10, Houston plus 110 to win the Big 12, Marquette plus 600 to win the Big East, UC San Diego minus 160 to win the Big West, Maryland plus 430 to win the Big 10, Utah State plus 425 to win the Mountain West, and Missouri 40-1 to win the SEC. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. As little golf, little college basketball, as a return episode after the Super Bowl. I'll be back next week with 2 episodes. Selection Sundays, so that's Sunday night. I'm probably not going to record Sunday night, my bracket episode. My bracket episode will probably come out Tuesday morning. And then my first round picks, I do have to wait for, I guess I'll record that Tuesday night because the games start Thursday. So that'll come out Wednesday morning. So it'll be back-to-back episodes Tuesday and Wednesday next week. Maybe I'll try to actually do my bracket episode Sunday night after Selection Sunday. But there you have it. Subscribe to the Bacon Bets podcast on YouTube. Rate and review the audio version of this podcast. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Gamble or bless. Enjoy conference week. Enjoy the Players' Championship. And I'll talk to you next week.